Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inner Secrets Revealed Kabbalah class with Dr. Gil. I am Mike Ray, and I will be the host and producer for the evening. And tonight, we will be going over the topic of a question that many people have, no matter who you are or how old you are, or where you come from, what your background is, and that is, what are we doing here? What is the meaning of all of this? So thankfully, we have somebody who will be able to shed a little bit of light on that and possibly be able to help inspire some answers within us and possibly give us some better understanding of this. And of course, I have to mention that this is the month of November. So this is No Shave November, of course. So that's why I got the little scruff here. And I would encourage all of you guys to join in as well, so I don't look like a weirdo. Now, without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Dr. Gil Tivon, who is going to be teaching this class tonight that he's so gracious to put together for us. So, Dr. Gil, everybody.
Absolutely. Good evening to you all and to Mike for putting this together. He's definitely the producer of this all, and we thank you very much every week. And so this is our second lecture in this series. We used to have a series before, but we restarted it. I'm just going to recap what we did last time for those who were with each other. It's not necessary to know about last week. Nevertheless, I like to summarize everything for you to have it in a nutshell. We discussed last week the fact that we are created ex nihilo, and we discussed the concept of infinity with quantum physics, with what is God as the source of creation. This is not a place where we're going to argue about which religion is right and what exactly is it that's the right culture. This is not what it's about. It's about Kabbalah, which is one of the oldest traditions that was handed down from one spiritual mentor to the other for over 5,000 years, all the way from Abraham, the forefathers, through the book of creation, later on through the holy book of the Zohar, which is a library. It's not just a book. And about 500 years ago, the books of the Arizal in Tefad. And I was privileged to learn by the greatest Kabbalist in this generation, no question about it. Some of them have passed away already. Some are still alive. And I don't say that I know it all, because I don't. I'm a scholar like you and a student of life. But I'm going to put together everything in a nutshell for us to know where we're going through. So we're going to have a discussion for about 50 minutes, 50. Then we're going to open it to you to ask questions, whether it's through text or through chat or through you can voice yourself. There is no right and wrong over here. There's quite a few answers that Kabbalah gives us. Some of them are a real eye-opener because we haven't thought of it. Kabbalah doesn't try to be wiser than you or cleverer than you. Kabbalah means a tradition received all the way from the divine, with very, very holy people. They did it for thousands of years. So each one of them had an archangel, a guardian angel that supported them. And we know it for sure. Yes, we know for sure that this is the right tradition. So Kabbalah means the right tradition that has been handed over to us. And that's the way it is now. It doesn't mean that we cannot question it. Doesn't mean that it doesn't stand to reason. Of course it does. So I'm going to give it over to you, and I'm going to open it to you, and you can argue and huff and puff as much as you want. That's fine. It's been around for 5,000 years. Very great minds have pondered and had an incredible dialogue over this. And I've got at home in my library, many books of Kabbalah that deal with this in depth. So I'm going to give it to you at eye level. And let's start. So this is a very great question. I must preface by telling you a short, funny story. Many years back, I was giving a lecture about the meaning of life. And I asked this question. And it was packed with students. And I asked, anyone knows what is the meaning of life? What are we here for? And I asked an honest question, not condescending and not being cynical. The audience was very quiet. And then one guy that was sitting right next to me said, I don't know, I didn't prepare. So the question is, when do you actually want to prepare for this question? When do you think that you should know about why are you here for? But this is really the first question a person should ask. Life is very difficult. It's full of challenges. Nobody negates that. And everyone has got a bucket full of challenges and trials and tribulations and trouble in the 4 areas of life. And we discussed last week the 4 areas of life, which is your spirituality, which is your personal growth and your contribution. Secondly, is your love and relationship, your personal love and relationship. Third area is your career and finances. And the 4th one is your health and lifestyle. We, during life, juggle through all these areas and more, but these are the 4 major ones. And all of them push us to ask ourselves, what the heck, why do I wake up in the morning with such a headache and so much on my table? What I have to deal with? What is it all about? Why do I have to struggle so much here? So I'm going to give you a few answers. Each one is a different aspect of it, where each one, like we shape a diamond. A diamond has 56 sides to it. And that's what makes a diamond so precious and beautiful. I grew up in such a house of a diamond cutter. Should know. But I'm going to give you just 4 answers because 56 is too much. It's not all of it, but it's the most important answers that I could find in research during many years that I've been studying that. And please do write it to the chat, and you're welcome to ask later on, because if you're going to discuss things now, it will be a chaos, and many people later I'm going to listen to the recording, so bear with me, please. The first answer is as follows, and that is, we understand that we are a very interesting combination. I'm leading to the next topic also. The very interesting combination of a human being is a spirit and a soul inside a very animalistic kind of body. So our body's got very physical desires. It needs to sleep. It needs to go to the restroom. It needs to cohabit, to have relations. It needs many, many things. It's got anger issues and depression and frustration. We go through many issues through our body. This is the actual reality and fact. On the other hand, we were given a very spiritual, incredibly divine soul with incredible inspirations and aspirations. And some people that walked this earth from all religions, from all cultures, really reached very, very incredibly high levels tons of years ago, some of them in our generation, and you know yourself who they are for you, and they really managed to achieve very high levels. So, but to start with, there's an issue here, and the question of coming to this world and why start with this incredible conflict and confrontation between the body, which is nothing less than like an animalistic body that we share with the animals in the world, and an incredible soul. So some people will tell you, first of all, we are human beings that have a spiritual experience. I like to tell you, to start with, we are spiritual people, spiritual beings that came to this world to have a physical experience. To have a physical experience. That's what we're here for. So the question is, okay, it sounds great. We're going to go with the flow. So tell us why. So the first answer is as follows. If I take gold, which is very precious and very expensive, and I want to give it a form, a shape, it's a very liquidy kind, very hot liquid. In order to shape it, I must pour it into a mold of lead, which is a very lowly kind of material, iron. And through that very primitive, basic shape of the lead, I can create 1 kilogram of gold. We should all be able to share the bounty of that, or the abundance of that. Our soul has got no shape. When it comes down to this world, it's still shapeless. It's formless. You can listen to Bruce Lee, who says your mind should be shapeless, formless like water. When it comes down to this world, it's not shaped, it's not formalized, not crystallized. Through going through this body, which is very earthly, very primitive, very lowly, again and again through repetition. And repetition is the master of all skill. Through doing things, forcing ourselves to go against our nature, working against resistance, forcing ourselves to be kind, forcing ourselves to do acts of goodness, forcing ourselves to give, to get out of bed and go to work and be responsible for our actions. Thereby, we formulate and we graduate to a certain level where we give our soul, a spiritual soul, the real shape of it. But we are the creators of it. In other words, when we come to this world, most of us are tabula rasa, it's clean slate. In other words, I'm not shaped yet. People walk this earth, Mama Teresa and Hitler, the Pope and the chief of that, and many, many great people of all kinds of things, and many terrible people. But when they were born as babies, I'm sure all of them were very cute. Through the actions, through the choices, they have chosen a certain path, either to build this world or to destroy it. And that's the power of one singular man. So we were created separately. Each one is a separate entity because our choices, our actions, our emotions, our thoughts that we cultivate, that we use in the everyday, shape our spiritual format and formulation forever after. So there's a second which says go. And out of 250 million sperms in a cubic centimeter, one swims fastest, gets into the egg, and becomes a human being. All the others are gone. And we're very privileged to be here because there are only less than 7 billion people walking this earth, but each one of us is unique, special, has got a very special kind of way about them. By just fact that you can use different kind of people, I'll really be very thankful. And so together with this, we shape our way inside here in this world. You can just Toa, if you can just mute yourself because I can hear. Yeah, Toa, thank you so much. Yeah,
thank you.
And, yeah, that's fine. And because we can hear the echo of what's going on through your computer. Thank you so much. And so this is the place that we can do it. Now the question is how. So the first issue is I need to formulate my path. It's very much like I would drive next to somebody. I would just learn the theory of driving or the theory of flying, but I never took the gear, I never took the wheel into my hands. You don't know how to drive. It's like sitting in a surgery of a great doctor of a surgeon, and then it's very simple. He cuts over here, he takes out the heart, he massages the heart, he puts it back. I can do it also. Well, go and try. The reason he gets paid $20,000 or $50,000 and you don't, because he's got many years of practice. And that applies across the board, whether it's Qigong, whether it's an engineer, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a lawyer. You need to get the practice. If I finished university and I'm a brilliant guy after 4 years, 7 years, but I don't have 1 day of practice, and you are not brilliant, but you got 20 years of practice, I will choose you. Because that practice of doing it again and again, of having it part of you, of having ownership on what you've done, shapes who you are. So the first answer of Kabbalah is we need this world to shape your path. And that path can be attained only through working against resistance. What does it mean? So I went to research and I found that salmons, which I love very much, they are one of the only fish that swim against resistance. In other words, they swim upstream in order to lay the eggs over there in a very safe place so that the sharks and other big fish don't eat up the eggs. And they're one of the only species of fish that swim against resistance, against the stream. We do the same. And I have a statement which says a very stupid statement, but very, very brilliant at the same time. Only dead fish go with the flow. So since we are alive and we're not dead, we need to go against resistance. So having said that, let's just revise and have it encapsulated. We are created with an animalistic part and we have craves. We have terrible desires for addictions, for all kinds of things that people shouldn't do and they don't do in public. We've got terrible anger issues, depressive issues, grief, or need for incredible pleasures. this comes from the body, from my ego and from the physical body. At the same time, I've got an incredibly pure soul which craves for the highest. And most of us get confused because many people are very spiritual, but they don't want to toil, they don't want to work against resistance, or they don't know the direction. So they go for drugs, they go for many other things, thinking that 5 minutes or a few hours of elation will cover up the bills, will pay for their feeling so stuck, so lonely in this world. But it's only a fake, it's only an illusion, because it fills your cup for a few hours and then it drops you down so fast. And then you need psychologists and pills to pick you up and to pick you down, and then life becomes really in a whirlpool, which is terrible. So knowing all the forces of creation, being very realistic about it, and those people that brought us down Kabbalah know it, tell us that the first answer is we need to acquire perfection in this world. When a baby is born, he's far from being perfect. In Hebrew, in the original Hebrew and Kabbalah, the word for, do I have a chat somewhere, Mike, that I can write here? Or there's no chat? Mike? If there's a chat.
There is a chat. If you go all the way over to the right-hand side,
Correct.
you see where it says studio, media, and chat.
Studio media. Yes, I do. Up there.
There you go.
There we go. Very good. Let me try. So I've got a few languages in my computer. So in the Hebrew, the original, I will write it to you in English so that you can read it, and I'll put it on caps lock. The word for a baby is tinok, which means a baby, right? Baby. Now, the next value is when we get born, we separate from our mother. I don't need to know lots of Kabbalah. I can have a very beautiful metaphor. Very much like my soul was part of the divine before it came down, but did not have its own personal identity. When I was part of my mother's womb, and my mother wanted to give me a name, I was just a fetus. I was not a baby yet. So when I'm born, it's called in the original Hebrew in the name of Nituk. Let me write it in the Hebrew, which is Nituk. The same letters, which means separation, right? Complete separation. It just came out wrong with the English here. Separation. So the same letters. Nituk. It should be like this. Excuse me. Nituk. That's better. Same letters exactly as before, or tinok or niduk. Just a play of the letters from the roots in the Hebrew, which means I feel separate. I don't feel that I'm coming to any kind of anything proper. I need diapers. I need to be taught everything. I don't have a language. I don't have a career. I don't have an education. I need to be fed. But when I stand on my own mind, when I come to a level of awareness, a level of consciousness, then I go to the level of tikkun, which is a very famous word today, which I'm sure most of you heard about. Tikkun, which is the same letters exactly, which means reparation. I come to start to repair my own soul to some kind of a very high level. Some people do it when they're very young, and it catches different people at different times that they can do that they can manage. You can just mute. Thank you so much. And some people do it when they're much older, but whichever age you are, and whenever you do feel that you're up to it and you're mindful of it to start to create that incredible change in your life and perfection, this is where your tikkun, this is where rectification starts. So again, just to summarize for those who came now, you start from the tinok, which means the baby, which is you part of your mother. Then you go into the nituk, which means completely separated, and you don't have any values and any education. You can't take care of yourself. You need about 20 years to grow up in your parents' homes, 18, 20 years. Some people do it for 40, 50 years. And then you come to the last stage, which is nituk, which is tikkun, which means you start to rectify yourself and say, okay, I can work against resistance. I need to own my own actions and to shape, to formulate my soul through my actions. Why through my actions? Because the soul is shapeless. And I mentioned Bruce Lee, who was a master, Kung Fu, etc., who says it from the old Chinese. and they line up very much with Kabbalah. We state that we are shapeless unless are formulated through incredible repetition, which is the master of all change. And you will see one of the great statements of Bruce Lee says, "I'm not afraid to fight with somebody who practiced 1,000 to 10,000 different kind of kung fu movements, but I'm petrified to fight against somebody who practiced one movement 1,000 times." This is what it's all about. It's about the concept of being persistent, consistent, of owning your own actions till you do it. And I will give you a nice, beautiful example to summarize the first answer, which is from Maimonides. Maimonides lived about 900 years back, and he was the great physician of the Egyptian king. He grew up in Spain and then immigrated to Egypt. He left behind thousands and thousands of writings, not only on medicine, which applied to today, but about philosophy and ethics and law. So in one of the letters to people in Yemen, he said as follows. He wrote them a riddle. He says as follows, and I'm going to ask you this riddle. If I have $100 and I've got 100 American soldiers over here, and it's terribly hot out there, it's 110 degrees, Arizona, 110 degrees out there, and I can afford to buy them 100 popsicles and something else. What should I do? Should I go to each soldier and waste about 2 hours, invest, and give each one $1 and buy them the popsicle, or give somebody, take $100, just hand it out to them? It will be much faster, to each one $1. Again, should I do it myself one by one, or should I give the $100 to charity, and he will give each soldier the popsicle on the day of elections on Tuesday? So, because we got a long lecture, I want you to ponder this, but Maimonides answer very simply. I'm going to ask you to give each soldier $1. The reason is, the soldiers anyhow will get the popsicle. But by me doing the act of kindness 100 times, I'm going to change. And you should see the Schindler List, where he was crying. He was out of the Nazi movement. After all the people that he saved, he said, I wish I had a few more. I could have sold my golden buttons of the Nazi movement to save another 2 people. Because he was a changed man. You see the transformation that happens through again and again doing this simple action through this world. And that goes across the board in Qigong, in the Chinese philosophy, and especially in Kabbalah, which is the master of all this. So that's the first answer. If you have any questions, write into the chat, which I can see, or we can deal with it later as soon as we've done. The second answer is even more interesting and puzzling. The second answer says as follows. We came to this world because of 2 words, and those words are called bread of shame. Again, bread of shame. In the original Aramaic, it's called Nahama de Kisufa, bread of shame. What does it mean? It means as follows. I'll give you a nice analogy. Let's say that you earn between $5,000 and $10,000 a month, which is a very nice salary anywhere in the States, whether it's a singular person or a member of a family that brings a salary to his wife and children, or wife to her husband, between $5,000 and $10,000. Now, I'm the owner of a very big business. My name is Elon Musk. You come and work for me. I tell you as follows, in front of all my workers, with over 10,000 workers, I do not want you to come to work. I'd like you to come at the end of every month, at the 30th or 31st of every month, stand in front of everyone, open your hand, and I'm going to place in your hand charity of $10,000. Say, yeah, I don't even have to work. You're going to come first month, get $10,000 from Elon Musk. Second month, and then you say, you know what, I don't feel good about it. Something is wrong here. They're all laughing at me. They're all scoffing at me. I feel really ashamed because I haven't done anything. So you knock on the door of Elon Musk and you say, can I please work, do something? He says, no, I just want you to stand in front of everyone and accept this paycheck from me. In a very short time, most decent people, folks, are going to say, no, I'll clean your toilets. I'll do something. I'll save you coffee. I have to do something to earn it, to deserve it. I just can't stand it. And that's the reason why we go. And that's why I appreciate so much young girls that go work for Panera Bread or for Starbucks or anywhere else. instead of doing other things, God forbid, because they have respect, they have self-respect, they're prepared to work for $10.50 rather than doing other things which are inappropriate. So the concept of bread of shame comes from the fact that when we were souls with no body, not a physical body, we were given everything. It was bread of shame. But there's an incredible concept over here. We are created, each one of us is a spark of godliness, spark of the divine. I said at the beginning, we are a spiritual being having a physical experience. We are a physical being having a spiritual experience, a physical experience. And so, having said that, when we come to this world, right, we don't want to feel bread of shame, and we are created in the image of God. What do we know about God? We discussed this last week. That was a preparation. We know that He's benevolent, that He's giving. He doesn't have any evil inside Him. God is good. So we are very much like this. I don't want to be in the receiving end all of my life. I want to emulate the source of life. But by me receiving all the time, more money, more bounty, more abundance, more of everything, more prosperity, what did I do for it? So we want to save. The soul itself says, I want to save. So God, so to say, has a dialogue with every soul that says, my darling daughter, son, you want to save? Come down to this world and earn your livelihood. Earn your livelihood. So by coming to this world and struggling and working through resistance and fighting with ourselves, with our inner demons, with other circumstances which are very, very challenging, we deserve it. When I come after 120 to God and say, God, give it to me, He says, well, you don't. I said, no, I've earned it. I worked so hard. And then I feel that I can even demand out of God. I deserve it. I became a godly spark of yours. I did everything that I can to fight. When people shouted at me, I shushed. When it was time to be angry, I quietened down. When it was time to be selfish, I wasn't. I gave unconditional love to other people. God says, well, you deserve it. And even in this world, in other words, if you look well in the Bible, it doesn't promise me something after 120. No, it promised me here and now. In the here and now, your life will be a better life because you feel that you own it. And I want to ask you a very simple question. You can write it in the chat, which is as follows. I wish I did, but I don't. If I have $20 billion, and you also do, each one of you has $20 billion, but I'm a very selfish guy, I give nothing to nobody. You carry on keeping in your bank account $20 billion. I do. But you decide, each one of you, God was so kind, I've got $20 billion. What am I going to do with this? Can I sleep on golden beds? Can I fly every day to Dubai? What am I going to do? So let me give out of it $1 million for charity. There's so many orphanages around the world, in China, in Africa, third world countries. Let me donate every year $1 million. Even if you donate $1 million, you'll still be a multi-billionaire by the end of your life. Now, who is richer, me or you? You are much richer. Because I stayed selfish, I never changed a lot, and everyone hates me because I don't do the giving. I don't give any service. For me, it's bread of shame. But you are world-renowned and so loved by people because you used your money. This is a gift of God. Let me share what I have with others. You're much richer than me, much richer. And that's the second reason. That's called bread of shame. That's called bread of shame, right? And so we don't want to. The reason is because I emulate, I'm an image of God, I'm a spark of godliness. I cannot stay only on the giving end. If I go into any relationship with business partnership, love relationship, child-parent relationship, any kind of relationship, and I feel that I'm on the giving end always, but the other party is always on the taking end, something is very wrong over here. I'm growing and they aren't, or the other way around. So we must cultivate. And again, it's not a question of judging or criticizing somebody else. It's just looking at myself, observing and saying, what can I do to become a better human being? I was given the gift of life. I was given the gift of health. I can finish the month. I've got a bed to sleep in. I've got richness around me, which is just a question of being very happy with every day. I don't have to live in Beverly Hills in $23 million. I can live my own simple life. Can I give some? Can I share it with other people? If the answer is yes, you're a great person. That's bread of shame. Okay. The third reason is even more surprising. The third reason depends on God. Now, before we speak about God, we have a great Kabbalistic revelation, which says as follows. If I call my son by his name, well, he knows that I call him by his name, but he never called me on my name. My son never called me Gil or Gil Gershon. Why? Because that's not proper. Your son calls you daddy, father, whatever it is, but hey, buddy, hey, dude, how you doing? He doesn't call him your first name. It just doesn't work this way. So the same applies to God. When we come to God, he is over and above us completely. So we don't have any real grasp of the divine. What we do have is, through our limited mind, we were given some revelation of the secrets and prophets that walk this earth. What is God about? But the real essence of what is God, we don't really know. We know his unity, we know he's benevolent, we know he's loving, we know he wishes to give over, we know he's all good. Yes, that we know. But his real essence, even that very famous name, which is Havaya, or in the Hebrew, right, as you write it, this is the way, the concept of how we understand him, how we grasp him. The one who gave him his name as Master or the Lord was the first man, because he asked, what would you want to call me? I would like you to call me Master. Okay. How would you grasp me? And I put up this article a day or two ago. I grasp you as he was, you are, he was, he is, and he will be. It's over time, over space. But this is our understanding. From God's perspective, it's like me calling my father by his first name. He can grasp me. I can't grasp my father. He's much bigger than me. He's a previous generation. He was here before me many, many decades. He knows about life in a different way than me. And that's why all across the world, people don't call the Father usually, if they're decent people, in the Father's name. So having said that, now we're going to grasp something that Kabbalists have grasped, even though it's from our perspective, saying as follows. God lusts, he desires the fact that the divine should be in this world. I'll give an analogy. Comes your birthday around. You've got a few kids at home. And those kids at home would like you to give you a present. Those kids at home would love to give you a present. Now, they're short of any money. They don't have any money to give you presents. So what do? They draw you a drawing. They say, Daddy, I love you. Or you give them money to buy you a present. So they're incapable of doing it. But the best present a child can give a parent, by emulating the parents, by being good, doing good deeds, helping at home. Yeah, what kind of a child have I got? This is what God is asking us. You can't give me presents because the whole world is mine. You can emulate me. You can become better. You can serve other people. This way you show me that you have brought the divine into this world. So it's true that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. But once I'm here, what can I do? Very few names that achieve that. Let's take from the Christian world, Mama Teresa. She was a small, petite woman that did her job many places in the world. She was barely paid, but she rose and shined. She was shining. She was a shining angel in this world. Nobody negates that. Mahatma Gandhi in India. He was a simple, brilliant lawyer in South Africa, where I grew up. But yet he was the leader of 800 million people in India, and he was an incredible leader. He really felt for the people. He gave his life for these people. He's being revered till today, many decades after he passed away. It's incredible. So I'm especially choosing here and there all kind of people from different religions, different colors. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's got to do with the fact that the person says, I want to bring the divine into this world. I want to be an agent of the divine, an agent. In other words, I can do something with my own selfish intentions in it, my own interests. And there's a very brilliant statement in the Supreme Court, which says as follows. So I learned many things in life. Part of them is also being a family lawyer, so I should know that. So in the Supreme Court, there's a very interesting statement that says as follows. It says, a man to a man is not a wolf, meaning we don't try to devour each other. Some people do. A man to a man is not an angel, because we're not expected to be angels, because we've got interests. A man to a man is a man. Behave to your fellow like you like to behave with yourself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Do for others, be compassionate like you do expect to be done. Even, and that's the great test, the great challenge is even if the other party does not reciprocate. I speak to somebody very nicely and they back at me, or they don't reciprocate. I say to somebody, how beautiful is your post? And say, thank you. What about mine? Don't bother. Or whatever it is. I give charity to somebody, and I've done this in Europe. I gave charity to somebody in the street. That's what I had. And I said, I'm so sorry, sir. I was dressed nicely to a lecture. I thought he was a multimillionaire. I wish I was, but I wasn't. And I gave him some money. He threw back at me the money and spit it at me. So I remember till today, it really hurt me because I gave the person charity. But he's such a downtrodden person, so broken. So I felt very sorry for him. He does not have to reciprocate. And if the other party does not reciprocate, that's even better, because I'm trying to be more divine. If you think about it, how many people every day are angry at God? I'm so angry at him. I don't believe him anymore. Why did my husband die so young? Why doesn't he make me a multi-billionaire? Why did he leave the money only at Elon Musk and not at me also? All kind of things that we want to say. But that's not true. The truth is God gives you what is best for you. Elon Musk, by the way, works 24/7, 7 days a week. I'm not sure if he's got time for anything else. But you might have a very balanced life. You don't live to work, you work to live. Well, that's beautiful. You work to live. You work to live. Maybe that's a better thing for you. You chose your life. And that's a very important thing that I want to tell you. I've seen many people in my life. I gave many lectures in quite a few continents and countries. Many people complain, God is very harsh at me. People are very harsh to me, right? I've got such a terrible life. It's too terrible. The real answer is that we are the creators of our life. Whatever I feel inside, whatever my thoughts are, and that's quantum physics, I project to the world and I create my reality. Did I create my illness? Did I create my poverty? Did I create the judgment and the lack of peace at my own home? Yes, you did. Change your behavior, change your thinking, change your feelings, and you will get a different life. I don't say this. Bigger and better people than me say this. Go listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza, to Tony Robbins, listen to quantum physics, to Chopra, all kind of people around the world, all the way from India to San Diego, speak the same language. In other words, I create my own world. So when God wants you to, the holy spark of you to shine, that means that the first step must be that you find who you are. You can't shine like me. I can't shine like you. I don't know anything about you. You've got such talents that I don't have. Maybe you're a nurse. Maybe you are an incredible strategic manager. Maybe you're very good with numbers. Whatever. Maybe you're very good in dancing. I will never be able to. Maybe you're an incredible boxer. Yeah, I met last night a guy, a very young guy from overseas who's in the kickboxing, in the MMA. He's about 24 years old. And I said, I envy you. I would never be able to walk into this, arena. I'm petrified. I'll get broken. But he does very well. So appreciate each person, because together we complete a whole. And whatever you can do is so unique and so special. I can never emulate. I can never do your job. So appreciate who you are. Even though you might be an employee of somebody, take the lead for 2-3 hours a day after hours, and find out who you are and rise and shine with that. It might take years, it might take long months, but you are on that journey of trying to find what is the holy spark inside me that makes me so special, that's why I was sent here. It's a privilege, and it's also my pleasant obligation to do exactly that. That's beautiful. Number 4, and then I'm going to also summarize a little bit, and that is as follows, that we do understand that we are created in the image of God, which means as follows. We said before, so this is something we've said before, but I'm going to expand on that, elaborate on that. God, we know, is good, we know He's benevolent, He's giving. There's only one problem. When we are created, if I want to pour my coffee, it's called coffee for many hours, I want to pour it onto something which is very flat, right? I'll have my laptop down on me in 1 minute. What a pity. So I need to have something, a container, in which I can pour it into to hold the coffee in it. When God created us, if He created us flat, in other words, created us the same as Him exactly, I've got no receiving vessel. So He created me with an inner need, a crave to receive. And that's part of the problem and part of the solution. And it's deep. Let's go through this slowly. The nature of human beings, we are in our nature takers. We are nature selfish. We want to receive. We cannot just give because I am not the creator. If I go to sleep, I don't have my own inner light. I'm not the moon, which gets a light from the sun. I'm not even the sun. I'm just a small, petite human being sleeping on the earth, which is somewhere on the third arm of our own galaxy. If you look out from the universe, nobody knows that I exist even. So my nature, in order to be able to receive, was created with a vessel that needs to first receive in order to give. Again, for me to pour this coffee, I cannot have something flat. I need to have a container that can hold the depth. And in order to receive, I just spit in my coffee, to pour this coffee in, like this cup. So when God created me, He must have created me with a certain kind of a receiving vessel to receive all this prosperity, all this godly spark into me, which is great. Each one of us is great. The problem is that most of us get stuck right there. I feel so good about myself, I want to receive more. But when is the time that you take this holy spark and you turn around and you say, well, you know what, God, let me start giving it back. So, if we look at any kind of human relation, whether it's in courts, whether it's in illnesses, whether it's in confrontation at home, in the business world, with your friends, it will always, the crux of it, in a nutshell, will be very simple. Am I a giving person? Am I thinking about the other person that I want to share, to care, to give, to love? Or am I a taker? Am I selfish? Am I self-centered? For example, why do people get angry? We'll go to it later on as sessions go forward. People get angry because their will was not done. It's a house divided on itself. I get angry at myself, or I get angry at somebody else because I wanted to drive 95 next to a school, God forbid, and suddenly a child wants to run into the road. I wanted to say my statement at home, but a woman or a child wants to say something else. I wanted my way in this marriage, but I had opinions as well. I wanted my way in my company or as an employee, but what can I do? Elon Musk, sets standards which is not going my way, so I get angry. Anger means it's a product, it's a result of my being self-centered. I want it my way. I want it my way. And this is the first thing that we must work. I don't say that we must negate ourselves. We must nullify ourselves. No. I'm saying, let's be humble, let's listen. One of the Kabbalists said, why are we given one mouth and 2 ears? Well, the answer is very simple. And by the way, I saw it also in Chinese tradition. Because you should listen twice as much as you speak. But what do? Did you see two people speaking to each other on the phone? Nobody listens. We just speak. We just want our way and to say our statements out there. So I want to make a closure because I'm looking at the watch and it's always winning against me. So there are actually 4 major reasons that I mentioned, and I open it to you, to the chat or whatever you want, you can ask. The first was, in order for us to acquire, to make ownership of a real change in my soul, in order for my soul to have a physical experience and change, I must go through this physical lowly body, which can acquire a shape to these souls through repetitive action against my nature. That was the first answer. Second answer was because of the bread of shame. I am a godly spark. I cannot be on the receiving end all my life because I don't emulate my creator. I need to be able to give back. I need to be able to earn it. I need to come to God. I need to come to my family and say, I deserve it. I need to come to my boss at the end of the month and say, it's not charity. I'm going to sue you. I can come to God at the end and say, God, I'm going to sue you. The only reason why we don't sue God, because that's a bit blunt, right, and daring, is because we live in this world 70s, 90s, 120s, and then the reward we get for our actions goes for many, many centuries later. So even this is a very harsh trial, this world. Nobody has to come here. But once we're here, the amount of time we go through this, and please read the book of Job, what kind of trouble and tribulations he went through, this poor man. But later on, he died a very righteous man. He's going to earn whatever he's done for generations. He left a legacy behind him for many, many generations. So therefore, I cannot sue God and say, look, I only slaved away here in this world for 100 years, and you're giving me only a few thousand years later. Yeah. So nobody can sue God. But we understand that what I want to do is to emulate God through my own actions and to deserve it and not to come as a charity case. The third answer is even more mind-provoking and mind-boggling. God wants me to be in this world his agent. You know, I have some patients of mine that are feds. You know, when they walk into my clinic, I feel very privileged, very proud. Feds. But they've done it. Now, when they go on a job, they don't just do the normal job. They are serving the United States government. One is a CIA agent, the other one is a Fed. They've been around the world. Elderly people already retired. But nevertheless, they've got a mission behind them. The MI6, the Mossad, the FBI, the CIA. They've got a very high purpose, whatever they do. When you go to your company, you're not a private person anymore. You're serving that beautiful company you're working for. When you wake up every morning, you're not just serving yourself. You are serving, imagine, you're serving God. Imagine the task, the responsibility on your shoulder. It's incredible. And as such, you behave differently because you are about your Father's business, which is incredible. This is the meaning of it. And the fourth thing that we mentioned is you are created in the image of God, meaning you will need to turn our inner nature, which is selfish, which is self-centered, into one of a giving way. So I promised it will be 50 minutes, and it is. It's 51, so I've stolen 1 minute away from you. I'm so sorry. And now opening to you. You can either through the chat or ask questions. Be lucky. Or Mike, if you have any questions written there, that would be great. Now go ahead. I don't force anyone. Whatever you feel comfortable with, it's fine. Mike, do you have any recent questions or other people want to ask? If you don't ask, it means that it's all clear. Well, I'm the only one that's not clear to.
Technical difficulties. Sorry about that. Somebody tried joining in, and I think they had some type of issue, and then they were tuning me for a minute. So sorry about that.
It's all good. So, any questions about any of this, or you got other, reasons or your own thoughts or challenges? Why are we created? So the first step is to know who you are. But once you input into yourself that godly spark, that's the divine spark, you have a different kind of an answer. And I gave you 4 reasons why you have a godly spark inside. You should rise and shine. And that's what is expected of you. So you want to challenge it. You want to ask about it. You want to bring other reasons. I'm all ears open, humble to listen, my friends. Mike, any questions on your end?
Not yet. So far, just a bunch of people just commenting on Facebook. A couple of people trying to get in.
So while you're pondering about it, I will give you a nice little story about it, that there are different levels. What we spoke about tonight, the two different levels of understanding it. It's on a deeper level. For the more advanced, I'm going to advance you very quickly. The one level happened with an incredible story a few thousand years back, but we have by tradition the story where a very great spiritual sage was walking. Those days there weren't cars and no FedEx and no cell phones. So he walked around, he had a donkey, he had a candle to light in the night, and he had a chicken to wake him up in the morning. Right? Very good. So he walked to a certain town and he asked to come into a hotel. He had money for the motel or for the hotel, whatever it is. The people of the town were very selfish, said, "Sir, we don't know you, out of the town." So he didn't judge them. He understands, he's not stupid, God forbid, and he went outside and was sleeping in the woods. During the night came an incredible wind, extinguished his candle. Came a lion, but it's a real story. It's not a legend. Came a lion, devoured his donkey, devoured his chicken. The man woke up in the morning with nothing. What he said to himself is as follows. He said, and he went and published it. Till today, we have the story, we have his statement from the experience. He said, everything that God does will always be for the best, even though it's above my understanding. I do not know why God did it. I don't understand why he took everything away from me. I'm a very nice guy. I went into town. The law of attraction should have worked. Was very kind, prepared to pay. Nobody wanted to take me in. He didn't say life sucks. No, he said everything God is has got a very good reason, even though it's above my understanding. Now, he had a spiritual mentor himself. And every generation we go back usually is much greater. Much greater, not slower, not smaller. Yes, we technologically be more advanced, but spiritually we see that tons of years back they lived great spiritual masters, and today we slowly, because we need to work so hard, because life became much more complicated, because we are more technocrats, there's less time for our spirituality. They devoted all their lives to this, so they informed they could grow to be spiritual masters. By the way, they were not of higher IQ, they just devoted themselves completely to that. His spiritual mentor said, I want you to go to a higher level. The higher level says, I want you to find the light in what happened to you. I want you to find the spiritual lesson. God does not play with your tricks. He doesn't want to tell you things or show you things that is beyond your, otherwise, what kind of a teacher is God? He's our coach. He wants you to try and find in whatever happened, what is the spiritual lesson. So he sat with his student that was already also elderly and said, let's check. Please, let's go back to the town where you're supposed to be hosted in that hotel and check what happened to the people of the town. Well, that town was raided during the night with a gang of robbers and everybody was killed. So by you sleeping in the woods, God took out the candle, shut down the donkey, and shut down the chicken, but nobody could find you and your life was saved. So what looked to you as I have to go above my imagination, I don't understand God's way, from if you really research it, God was very compassionate because he saved your life through this action. That's a very interesting outlook of trying to find out the diamond within your trials and tribulation, the lesson within your harsh experiences as they're going through. Yeah, please go ahead. You can, if you're too shy, you can write it in the chat. If you're too bold, you can actually tell me your question, and I'm sure to answer you politely and friendly. Please go ahead. Mike or anyone else? I don't want to call your names that you don't feel that you have to. Nobody has to.
Well, I have a question here, which is that how can God be all loving and all merciful and a God of justice if he still allows these things to happen? So how?
Very good. Very good question.
How does that balance come in?
Yes, very good question. One of the things we will be dealing with, and I happen to delve into this question a lot, and again, Mike doesn't know, even though we're personal friends, but he doesn't know that, in one of my books, I wrote over 20 chapters on that question of free choice because it really intrigued me, this question. So the bottom line is as follows. The difference between us human beings and the animal world, and some animals are very smart, etc., but whatever animals do is their own inner inclination, but they don't have a free choice. You know, when a lion devours a zebra for dinner, we don't say, no, we're going to put you in jail for about 3 years. You know, that's violence. No. He just was doing his nature, and he also says thank you to the zebra for finishing his dessert for the night. And he cleans his mouth from the blood. But we human beings, we got free choice. This free choice has to be free to the point that God does not interfere. We're going to come later on to the new concept of Kabbalah, which is called Tzimtzum, which means limitless. God limited himself to the extent that he allows us free hand. We can run this world, we can create this world, we can build it, we can ruin it completely. When people ask, for example, the example I mentioned at the beginning, Hitler, he caused for 40 million people to die in the Second World War. 40 million. Yes, 6 million Jews, but 40 million people. How can God allow such atrocities? And the answer is, this is free choice. I gave you the earth, I gave you complete kingdom. You go and do what you can till the NATO forces decide we're going to put an end to this. Until today, Germany and Japan don't have armies. Even though they're very good people today, right? You don't have to pay for what the ancestors did, but this means free choice. So, and at the same time, you see that we've got a legal system that punishes and puts away people that are a danger to society. And that's the beauty about it. So imagine as follows. If I am a principal of a school or my great father, and I monitor my child's movements, every single movement, he will never grow. He will never have a free choice. That's not him. But when I let him be and play with his siblings, then I know what he really is. That's what God does. He goes back. He allows us to play along. There's a verse in the Bible which says, let the boys play before us. And that's what he does. And therefore, he does not interfere. Because when you earn millions, you don't say, thank God. You say, well, I'm great. I went to university for a few years. I know what I'm doing. I'm a real genius. Right? But when God does not help you, when you're in great trouble or when the world goes haywire, say, God, where are you? So it has to go both ways. So it's up to us, and that's the big beauty of this world, to come together. We pray together. We pray for peace. We meditate for the peace in the world. We try to put aside those people that are very harsh or very evil, and there are evil people in the world. You know, America went against Saddam Hussein, America went against Bin Laden, people that we know that destroyed the Twin Towers and many other things, because we saw that evil, we're aware of it, and it's up to us to put it away. Yes, God helped us to catch this kind of people, evil people, but we need to take the initiative when we see it. I hope that answers your question. So I see that in the chat, one question was the Ein Sof, which we discussed last week. And I think I put it up in one of my posts during the week. Ein Sof means that God is endless. Endless means it's above our grasp, right? I am limited within my five senses. I cannot grasp something which is shapeless, formless, above time, above space. I cannot. And that is the negative definition of God, which is Ein Sof in Hebrew means it doesn't have an end to it. That means infinity. But infinity doesn't mean, you take a million, you take a zillion, any number next to God will be zero. Any number of any amount of money, any amount of people, any amount of galaxies will still be zero compared to the endlessness of God. Thank God that we do know that He's benevolent. We do know that He's good. We do know that He gave us free choice. And because of free choice, we can earn our own rights. We can earn and become in the shape of God, in the image of God. If it wasn't for our free choice, we wouldn't be able to do so. The other concept that Mike wrote in the chat, in whosever name, that is the limitless or the endless, the Ein Sof in Hebrew. Exactly. And that means there are no limits. There is no space, time, sense that limit God altogether. There's no mortality. There's no lifespan to it. Children usually ask, so who fathered God? Said, no, he didn't have parents. No, seriously. Who was the parent of God? It just cannot come out of nothing. And the answer is no, because from our limited concept, that's what we ask. We cannot understand something or being which is beyond time, beyond space. But quantum physics proves today God, and that's the incredible thing. There's a beautiful post of mine, I think Mike has published it a while back, I saw it, and thank you for it, Mike, about the authenticity of God and how can we prove this, an infinite being present in our lives from all kind of scientific proofs and historical proofs and his personal experiences. Today we don't need it anymore. We just go call quantum physics and we find the mind of God in the universe, conscious in every single bit. So I am limited, science says today. I only see in front of me 4% of reality. Even of my own self, only 4%. But 96% is gray matter, which is weightless, formless, shapeless, it's just energy and consciousness together. And I can walk into that space and become a better human being once I connect through meditation, through hypnosis, through nullifying myself, through some kind of surrender to that, or connecting to that infinite being who's benevolent to his kind, and become a better person. And if you watch different people that walk this earth, that's made of themselves great people. I mentioned a few today. Mama Teresa, Schindler, right? Oscar Schindler, it can be Mahatma Gandhi. Many people, I live in South Africa, Nelson Mandela, who did not wipe out the white population in South Africa, but rather walked into this and was very benevolent to the population. These people walked out of their own misery to another level. And I'm especially mentioning people from all religions, from all walks of life. I mentioned 4 people, 4 continents. There you go. Any other things you'd like to ask, friends? Before we call it a night, I would love to hear you. Don't be shy. I don't bite. Sometimes. Anyone present? You have a chance to ask, and I know I see a few faces from last week also that you also asked. So please don't be shy. I'm a human being just like you. I sleep, I eat, and I'm very physical. I checked, it's full of blood. So go ahead and ask. If you don't ask, it means that it's all clear and you agree with me. But if you do ask, it means you've got either questions, and questions are very important because when you have a question, it means you show depth in yourself. Not to question as in criticism or in doubtful way, but you want to understand. You are a searcher, you are a seeker of knowledge. You want to understand what is life. How does it relate to me? What am I going to stand up from this lecture and do now about my life? If you tell me at the end of this lecture, it was very interesting, I'm a failure. I don't want it to be interesting. I want it to say, wow, these are 4 incredible reasons I'm going to stand up now and change my life. I'm going to be a spark of godliness. I'm going to find my mission. I'm going to be unique. I'm going to rise and shine. I'm going to put aside a few hours a day and do something better with my life. That's what I want to hear. Okay, I'm going to count to 5 in my heart. It's like an auction. And if nobody asks, we're going to call it a night.
Everyone is unmuted right now. Just letting you guys know. So if anyone has a question, just
yes, please go ahead and
we'll speak over each other. I guess if nobody has a question, I'll just go to the questions in the Facebook chat.
Sure.
And the people that are watching. I guess some people weren't ready to come on camera today, but that's fine. So, so one of the things that people had questions about was between the connections between Kabbalah and other religions
very good.
Where the perspective of God comes from. Why do we get the idea of multiple gods from certain religions and the idea of monotheism from others?
Right. So
if Kabbalah is
this is a very, very old question, and I didn't want to turn the Kabbalah session lecture into a religious dispute or confrontation, and so I will just answer humbly. I said at the beginning, first lecture, that I didn't come here to preach on a mission. Nobody sent me. except my love for people and my wishing to share the knowledge with you that I've gained over many, many years. And so I do hold that beliefs are very difficult to change, and nobody wants to change anyone. So I've got lots of experience with it. I know I'm very hard-headed over there. And if somebody tries to change my religion or my perspective, my personal one, that will be impossible. And I feel the same for you. I love you enough to say I don't want to change you. However, nevertheless, we see a multitude of forces in this world. I just came back from Japan about months ago, and having shared a conference and workshop with people, one of the ladies who's a top medical person, right? She's older than me, saw that I was praying in the morning. So she asked me, who are you praying to? And she said, I'm praying to God. I said, I also prayed this morning to God. I said, well, I didn't know that you prayed to God. Please share with me. So she said, no, I didn't say God, I said God. Okay, who did you pray to? So she said, I prayed to the sun, I prayed to the moon, I prayed to the earth, and I prayed to the windows. I said, say again. I said, yes, I prayed to the windows. I said, window or windows? So there's no laughing over there, there's no cynicism, there's no criticism, no condescending. So what people have done, and let's say very much in the Eastern religions, in the Far East, people very much worship the ancestors, and that's a very common thing, that parents with so much power, and they represent the linkage to the past, that people worship the deceased parents. So over the ages, people have developed different kind of deities, and they give each one a name. You know, in the Greek philosophy or in the astrology, there's Zeus, and there's Venus, and there's Mars, and we even call them different kind of days after the moon and the sun and Mars, etc. But this is where, and I will tell you a short story about this. This is where Abraham comes into play. Abraham was a child that was born in the East, like in Iraq, about Babylon, old Babylon, about close to 5,000 years back. And he was a very inquisitive, seeking boy. His father was a minister in the emperor's court. And his father was his name was Terach, who was selling all kinds of idols. That was a very inquisitive child, and he wanted to understand life. There was no God, not one, and not that. There were many gods. Each idol is a god, the god of this, the god of that. So he went around and tried to see if they have any power, and he found out that they're just statues, man-made, that don't have power. And then he walked into nature, and then he saw an incredible tree that seemingly all the bugs, all the ants, and all the birds all come to the tree to nourish from the tree or to sit under its shade. So he thought, maybe I'll worship the tree. During the day, he saw that the leaves of the tree turn all towards the sun. He said, the sun is incredible power. It gives life. It gives us nourishment, vitamin D, vitamin E, all kinds of vitamins. So maybe we should worship the sun. Until today, many people in the East, again, there's no condescending and no cynicism in my words. I'm just sharing with you facts. Many people in the East till today worship the sun. Right? In Tibet, in India, people worship till today the sun. There's blessing for the sun. It's part of yoga, and I've learned yoga, and part of many other things. I learned the philosophy. You have a blessing to the sun, meaning I worship the sun. But at nighttime, from his perspective, he saw the sun, so to say, sun setting. That's the way it looks to us. And as a child, he said, well, if it's sun setting, it's movement, and it's bowing. Who is it bowing down to the sun? You know, this huge power up there. If it was a real power, it would stand up in its place. But I see it turning around. And this is our perspective as a human being. And then he saw the moon and its ministers, all the stars coming out. But maybe this is the silent partner, the real owner of all the shares in the company of God. He bowed down to the moon. And then he saw at the end of the night the same deal happens. The moon also bows down. Said, I understand there are powers at play. I see the dynamics in the world, the different kind of powers. There's yin and yang, there's good and bad, there's moon and sun, there are many powers. But there must be one power which holds all of this together, because I see incredible harmony in the universe. You know, Professor Stephen Hawking, that was an atheist, he wrote and I'm a scientist originally, so I should know, he wrote one equation which hold the four incredible forces of nature together, gravitational, electromagnetism. One equation. There's incredible uniformity in the universe. There are no two forces that are negating.
I get the kids.
Yeah, just please put yourself on mute, Kat, I think.
So you can
It's just one force.
100%.
Just on mute, please, Kat. Just one force that is holding all of this. And this is how very wise people long before us have found it. So you see the three major religions today, which is Judaism, Christianity, Islam, right, all have found through search, through research, through seeking, that there is a one God. Now, we also had prophets over the ages that spoke to God. Now, there weren't people that just had a dream and thought that they did. They really did. And they have proofs for it written in the Bible. They asked for miracles, and then these miracles happened. Babies were born where shouldn't be born, like Abraham and Sarah. He was 100 years, she was 90 years old. She didn't have already the menstrual cycle, and she had a child. So the many miracles that happened, of things that are proven in history, that are against nature, to prove that this force, this being, which is the one God, is exactly how we know. Again, I don't come to argue with you or to have a confrontation. I'm telling you what we know through many religions and also through Kabbalah. You are welcome to hold your own religion and your own culture, and I will love you all the same, and I'll believe in you all the same. Another question, Mike, and then we call it a night. Anyone else? I think Mike had a different question. If not, anyone else? Yeah.
Yes, well, I believe Kat had a comment or a question to make, and then she dropped out of the conversation. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Guys, we're just trying to keep everything, in an organized manner so we don't speak over one another. And, we could just wait until another person's finished talking.
Yeah, I'm sure that she just didn't see that I was still speaking, Kat or Kathy, and I apologize for that, Kathy. I just didn't see that we were still in the middle of discussion. And if you can come back on, I'll appreciate it. If not, you can write it to the chat, into Facebook, and I'll be more than happy to try and answer your question. Again, I don't know it all, but I know a lot, and hopefully be able to answer your question. So, one more question, Mike or anyone else? If not, we'll call it a night. There will be a link. Next week, what we're going to specially discuss is, I'm a good teacher. That's one thing I do well. I'm a good teacher. So we're going to discuss already the soul, different parts of the soul, including the auras, and understand that. And once we do understand it, and the three special lines in the Etz Chaim and the Tree of Life, we can really zoom in on the different kind of sphirot and go and delve into that. Everything we teach over here is practical. It's not a lecture in theology. It's practical life that is supposed to apply to everyday life. Take it and live with it. Mike, any more other question? Anyone else?
Well, I think you just answered part of a question that one person had, which was, why should people be interested in learning Kabbalah? The knowledge is fun and interesting. Why does it matter? What difference does it make if I will get through life according to God's plan regardless? What difference does it make what I learn about God?
So this is a very, very good question, but just in short, because we can delve into this question for many hours, is as follows. We have a simple rule. Let me start. It's not a joke, but that's the way it works. If a simple person buys a car, he doesn't care how does it work and about the engine. But if you take a mechanical engineer, he will tell you it's very complicated, and after many hours and days, maybe he'll be able to explain to you how does a car work. If you ask the professor that designed the car, I don't know. It's very difficult. The more you do know, it makes your life completely different. If I go through hardship in any one of the four areas of life, love and relationship, career and finances, health and lifestyle, and my own personal growth and spiritual, where all are intertwined and intermeshed, if I don't know the why, it's very harsh, and many people give up. Somebody asked me today about depression, about suicide, about drugs, about psychedelics. I get this every week because people need answers. When we have an answer, our soul is settled. We feel more at peace. We have calmness. We understand what is the reason. if I look back and I see somebody punching me with hatred and vengeance and cruelty, I will run away. But if I turn around and I see a gentle father giving me a smack on my shoulder and telling me why he's doing it, okay, it means he wants me to grow. So understanding those great principles of life is going to change our perspective and our quality of life, and that will make a huge difference in our lives altogether. I think that plus minus answered your question. I hope all of you had a great time like I did, and hopefully we'll see each other soon. There will be a link that Mike will put up about this lecture itself. And if you have any questions during the week, you're able to send it to Mike or through myself, through my email. You see my name over there, which is Gil Tivon. It says first name GIL TIVON@gmail.com. Here, I'll put it for you in the chat. And don't ask me about your grandmother's date of birth, etc. Do me a favor. Ask me questions that are relevant to here. I try to be short and succinct, right? I think it's there you go. And or something personal. And if I'm able with the time that I've got, I will try to do my best and answer you. Or through the chat of Facebook Messenger. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Yes, I can see all the chats. Thank you. Good night.
Yes, so
night and God bless.
Thank everyone for being here. And there was one person who asked an interesting question, which I think
go ahead
next time, which is what if somebody thinks they are already happy with their lifestyle? Why should they pursue trying to find some type of higher knowledge or higher level of happiness? So I think that's an interesting question for next time.
So the answer is as follows, and this is very important. I'll just answer it in short. If you read A Man in Search of Meaning, the book of Professor Viktor Frankl, who was himself a Holocaust survivor, happiness is a result. Happiness is not a reason on its own. It's not an end goal. It's a result of meaning. So some person can be happy with being on drugs. Some person can be happy being homeless. He thinks he's happy. Some person can be happy as a child with just knowing nothing about life and thinking this is the end of it. Just playing in the sandbox, it makes me very happy. But we as adults say, well, you got a long way to go, my boy. So happiness is just an end result. But what comes before it, and the reason is finding meaning in life. Because life will not be a garden of roses for any one of us. We'll all go through this oasis with trials and tribulations in all the major areas of life. You just have to. So if a person is just happy with what he has, any trial that will come, any poke in the wheels will shake him off, will make his life really troublesome because he never searched to find a deeper meaning. By finding a deeper meaning, we can find answers. You should listen to Joe Dispenza, that he broke and his first 6 vertebrae and was completely crippled. You should listen to this, Dr. Gil Tivon. I wrote my own personal trauma as a child, but looking back, it was my initiation. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the trauma that I went through. I became very vulnerable. I shared it with the audience. I wrote it out there. It's called my initiation. And I'm sure each one of you had an initiation in one way or the other. The bigger the initiation, the greater you grow. The way that, and I used to work in De Beers, which is the biggest diamonds production, synthetic diamond in South Africa. So it works as follows. You take a small piece of coal, which is worth 1 cent. You put it under incredible pressure, and out comes a diamond. If you want to be a diamond, happiness is not enough. You want to understand the why, the mechanism, the why you're going through this, the deeper reasons to be able to maneuver yourself through life to make it real progress, because otherwise any terrible stoppage, any terrible challenge on the way, you're going to stop being happy. And I've seen too many people around this world stopping to be happy for any small reason. I think that answers your question, hopefully. You're going to call it a great night.
Please.
Mike sent to all of us, thank you so much for joining.
Yes.
And we will see each other soon. Thank you. Have a great night. Bye.
a great night, everybody. And thank you again for everyone who is watching now or is watching the replay. I just wanted to also just very quickly share my screen and show the post Dr. Gil Tivon was referencing earlier today. This was over here, I believe. No, that wasn't it. Okay, well, he has a video called Finding God with Science Through Nature and the Human Body. And in this discussion, he goes through finding God and how it might help life become more easier, give us a sense of direction and purpose in life. And if there are any questions or challenges that you guys may be facing, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Gil. He is a great psychotherapist. He is trained in holistic medicine, many other forms of medicine and therapy. And I just have to give it up to him. He is the best, and I cannot thank him enough for putting on these classes. So thank you again to Dr. Gil and for everyone who joined us. And I will call it a night. Thank you, everybody, and God bless.